Gentlemen, stay out of red and black, because I'm drafting Minotaurs. What's wrong?
Nathan, my name is Peggy Kirkland, and I'm here today because your friends love you, but they're concerned about your draft decks.
What the hell is going on?
I'm not just a licensed intervention specialist. I myself used to play 41 card decks, and I think they're...
That's what this is about? Marshall, did you set this up? I'm not going to talk about this anymore.
Nate, come on, stay a minute.
No, screw this!
Sit down.
Marshall, would you like to start?
Nate, you are an awesome dude, and it is with love that we are holding this carefrontation. The Minotaur decks you draft rarely won an 18th land. Your 11 match losses in our last 4 drafts were largely due to land-heavy mana bases, not us being luck sacks, as you claimed.
Marshall, you're the one who always talks about the trap of results-oriented thinking. I mean, a month ago, I was running hot.
It's okay. It's okay.
Zach, it's your turn.
Nate, as someone who does Pro Tour coverage, you need to understand that literally not one pro player endorses your theory that 41 card decks provide the perfect mana curve.
Do none of you understand the concept of a ratio? It's a math-based formula. You have a 7-card opening hand, 23 spells, 18 lands, and I do believe there are several pros.
There aren't.
Brian?
I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. You're weak, you're ignorant, and you've become an embarrassment to yourself and to everybody else.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this coming from the guy who puts 5 elixirs of immortality into a deck whose only creature was a single Seacoast Drake.
That deck was awesome.
You went 0-3.
That's not the point.
Well, what is the point? Now, by all means, enlighten me.
The point we're trying to make is that it's important for us to want to improve as Magic players, to not be stuck in our ways, and to learn how to play correctly.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it more important in casual play groups, such as ours, to have fun, to draft the cards you want to play, to live and die on your own terms, and to give your friends something weird and funny to make jokes about when you're not around?
You know, I'm actually with Nate on this one.
Zach, don't encourage him.
No, but seriously, what if we embraced a new, transformative cultural paradigm that more thoroughly integrates disparate value systems?
Exactly.
Are you people insane?
Are you people insane?
Do you think we're close to a breakthrough? I got a 330 with Channel Fireball about LSV drafting 7 drops.
Now? Okay. All right. 3, 2... Welcome to Pro Tour Born of the Gods here in beautiful Valencia, Spain, where Magic pros will tackle a modern format made fresh by the banning of an elf shaman and the unbanning of a cat warrior and fairy enchantment. In an uncertain landscape with dozens of viable deck archetypes creating a myriad of game states, even the most skilled and experienced Magic players can struggle to identify the best strategy. In any given game state, is there only ever one quote-unquote correct play to make?
It is a very popular misconception that there is only one right play. There's only one right play if you're omnipotent. Like if you had all of the information and you were always going to play perfect into the future, then there would be a right play. Sometimes you're going to make, like different people make different kinds of mistakes. And so if in the future you're going to play really well in certain game states, you want to kind of lead the game towards that. And that could cause you to want to make a play that somebody else might not make in the exact same board state.
It is likely that there is one correct play. However, I would argue that it is difficult to impossible to know what it is. and that when one discusses the correct play under normal circumstances, the question is like, should you have attacked with this creature or not? When the real question might be, should you have waited 2 seconds before attacking with the creature or 20 seconds before attacking with the creature? Based on whether you want your opponent to think there was like something you were thinking about versus whether you were really confident because you had a trick. And like so much of playing perfectly just requires the exact right way to convey subtly the right messaging and information to your opponents in ways that like are not obvious and you don't even think about.
Sometimes you'll be at a spot where you're like, well, I know that other people, like my friends or my teammates, make a certain play every time they're in this spot, but I've tried that a number of times and I don't have enough practice doing that yet. It isn't working out for me, so I have to do what works for me. If you're just testing, you should do the way that the team says or what everybody says so you can learn it. But if you're actually in a tournament, you got to go with your gut.
True or false? A 41-card draft deck will always create the perfect mana curve.
That's very false.
As we've heard, determining the correct play can be quite difficult. The game is so complex, even Pro Tour Hall of Famers often struggle to find the best route to victory. Take, for example, the following scenario from a game of Limited. Brian Kibler has a Centaur Battlemaster, Nyxborn Wolf, and 6 lands on the battlefield. In his hand, he has Sudden Storm, Gainsay, a Wavecrash Triton, and a Nyxborn Wolf. His opponent, Shuhei Nakamura, has 11 life, a Horizon Scholar and monstrous Nessian Asp on the battlefield, and 1 untapped island. Brian casts Sudden Storm at the end of Shuhei's turn to tap his creatures, putting himself in a great position to attack for the win on his upcoming turn. That is, as long as Shuhei doesn't have the spell Triton Tactics in his hand, which Brian had passed twice in Shuhei's direction earlier during the draft. While scrying from Sudden Storm, Brian sees the powerful Nimbus Naiad on the top of his deck. If you were Brian, would you want to draw this card, or put it on the bottom of your library and draw something else on your turn? Which is the best choice that most likely ensures that you'll win? Press pause on this video, think about it, and when you've got your answer, press play to hear what Brian chose and why. So Brian, what did you decide and why?
I chose to put Nimbus Naiad on the bottom with the Scry effect, because I had a Nyxborn Wolf in my hand, so I already had the ability to make my Centaur Battlemaster a lethal threat, and I also had Gainsay. So what I wanted to do was scry into a land, because drawing a land would allow me to bestow the Nyxborn Wolf on my creature and keep up Gainsay, because Shuhei had 1 blue mana open, and I had passed a Triton Tactics to my right in Shuhei's direction, so there was a possibility that he could have Triton Tactics, and then he could untap his 2 creatures, block my creatures, be a pretty big blowout. So I wanted to play around that, and ended up working out.
So, just because it was the winning play, does that necessarily mean that it was also the correct play?
The two aren't one and the same. Sometimes you can make a winning play and it's still the wrong play. Sometimes there's multiple plays that could win a game. So just because a play does win doesn't make it the best possible play.
Top 8 of Pro Tour Born of the Gods is the story of 2 Canadians and their much-deserved moment in the sun. Jacob Wilson is an 18-year-old phenom with a Grand Prix title under his belt and the respect of the game's elite. Despite his young age, Jacob has dedicated the last 3 years of his life to winning the Pro Tour. Having mastered the strategic intricacies of the powerful birthing pod, many onlookers predicted that nobody would outplay the wonderkind from Vancouver. True to form, Wilson plowed through his quarterfinals opponent, a law student from Florida named Chris Fennell, whose attempts at creating a fiery storm were abruptly decayed by Wilson. In the semifinals, Wilson met Finland's Anssi Alkio, himself fresh off a tense match against Hong Kong's finest, Li Shi-Qian. Alkio had spawned an infinite number of Phyrexian clerics against Qian thanks to the hijinks of a legendary goblin named Kikijiki. But Wilson would tolerate no such nonsense in the semis, using Linvala, Keeper of Silence, to keep the goblin silent. Meanwhile, on the other side of the bracket, Edmonton native and Magic Online specialist Sean McLaren was showing the world that his game under the lights is just as good as it is from the comfort of his home. In the quarterfinals, he defeated a financial analyst from Las Vegas named Tim Rivera, thanks in part to the unorthodox play of seizing control of Rivera's enchanted Wall of Omens with the spell Threads of Disloyalty, thus proving that walls do in fact have conscious minds capable of treachery, but more importantly, launching McLaren to the semifinals, where he met Germany's Patrick Dickmann. Once again, McLaren's Threads of Disloyalty helped him win the match, this time stealing the scavenging ooze that Dickmann had equipped with a Sword of Feast and Famine. And so the finals would pit Sean McLaren versus Jacob Wilson in a showcase of Canada's continuing rise on Magic's global stage. Game 1 went to McLaren, who manipulated plate tectonics to destroy 2 of Wilson's lands, thus stripping him of white mana. But Wilson fought back with a cadre of creatures to win Game 2. In Game 3, Wilson asked his Vampire Wizard to sacrifice the lives of 6 of his creatures so that his scavenging ooze could feast on their corpses and grow large enough to kill the defenseless McLaren. With his back to the wall, McLaren turned to a Johnny Vengeant in Game 4. After controlling the battlefield for several turns, the powerful Planeswalker ultimately destroyed all of Wilson's land, leaving the young superstar without enough magic to mount a comeback. And while Wilson summoned creatures to threaten his foe in Game 5, McLaren had an answer at every turn, culminating in yet another corruption of a scavenging ooze with the Threads of Disloyalty. And so, after a 2-hour match of tense, suspenseful magic, Jacob Wilson extended his hand to congratulate his compatriot Sean McLaren as the Pro Tour champion. Sean, you've played this game for a lot of years now. Did you ever expect that you'd win a Pro Tour?
Not expected. I'd always dreamed, though. And is this a dream? Because pretty awesome.
You had written that you had hoped to destroy what's holding you back from success on the big stage. What did you need to destroy?
Mostly my inner fears and doubts. Like, I'd always lost because of myself. I'd always held myself accountable, and I always felt if I was going to win, it would be because I was improving myself.
Congratulations to Sean McLaren, the champion of Pro Tour Born of the Gods.